The half-hour mark, Leicester pulled one back. A first Leicester goal for Bilal El Khanoussa. A sweet strike with the outside of his right boot off one post and in. But immediately Manchester United restored their two-goal cushion with a Bruno Fernandes free kick that took a deflection off James Justin. 4-1 just before half-time. Casemiro, his second of the game. A header that hit both posts before he slammed home from close range. Right before half-time, hope for Leicester was provided with a Conor Cody finish from close range. Leicester started the second half so well, dominated possession, couldn't really create a clear-cut chance, and then a mistake from Caleb Akole led to Bruno Fernandes scoring Manchester United's fifth, his second of the game. Full-time here at Old Trafford, it's Manchester United 5, Leicester City 2.
Thank you, John. Yes, 5-2 to Manchester United at Old Trafford here at Leicester at King Power Stadium in the studio. I'm Dan Bates. We've got Matt Elliott and Ewan Roberts with me as we assess that full-time results. We'll also have Jerry Taggart with us live still from Old Trafford. I'll start with you, Ewan. We were hoping we'd be talking about Leicester going through to the quarterfinals of the competition. It's not quite happened.
When you saw the two lineups before the game, Steve Cooper making 9 changes, which he's right to do. You know, give some lads some minutes on the pitch, especially with a massive game on Saturday. Rest a few players that have featured quite a lot in the first 9 games in the Premier League. And when you see that Ruud van Nistelrooy, the strength in his starting 11, made only the 4 changes, I think. So it's never going to be an easy task. But you know what? Yeah, it looks a bit of a hammering when you look at the scoreline 5-2. But I don't think the scoreline is a true reflection of that 90 minutes. At the start of that second half, for 15 minutes, Leicester started that second half so well. Had they started that second half against Nottingham Forest on Friday, might have been a different story. The 5th goal killed the game as a contest. And then, as Mikey said, nothing really happened in the last half hour. But I think some of the lads there can take a lot of credit in their performances tonight, Dan.
Yeah, it seems strange to sort of say that, really, with the scoreline as it is. But you know, as is often the case, the scoreline in different ways doesn't always tell the real story. Having said that, people look at that result and say, well, how are you going to talk yourself out of that sort of thing? You know, at the end of the day, it was 5-2, conceded 5 goals. So there's obviously a fair few things that aren't right if you concede 5 goals. But having said that, yeah, it was relatively... Listen, Man United would just say they managed the game according to what the scoreline was. And there's an element of truth about that as well, because Leicester started brightly enough, if you're going back to the very opening moments of the game, put the pressure on Man U, tested them out a little bit, had some decent situations themselves that couldn't quite capitalise on. Man U scored in pretty much the first real effort towards goal and a moment of quality, but that's what that level of opposition possessed. Man United have sort of got by on that over recent times, haven't they? They've had a tough time. There's been no real sort of cohesion from them generally, but individuals... and sometimes those individuals come together and they produce moments of class because they have that quality. That's what Leicester are up against. So they have to be even more clinical themselves at both ends of the pitch, which they weren't, probably, not at the level Man United were, i.e. the scoreline. But yeah, it wasn't a horror show, as the score might suggest, I think. Far from it.
Jerry, you were with us. You were watching the game at Old Trafford. And obviously, as we said, the first half was a bit of a blur, really, in terms of the goals going in. Everything seemed to happen very quickly, didn't it? And Leicester in that second half looked really good for 15 minutes or so. And then, as Ewan rightly said, that the goal, the 5th one, kind of killed the game, really.
Yeah, it did. It was a bright... And when you go into half-time, it's 4-2, and you're thinking, OK, 2-goal deficit. You got yourselves a little bit of a lifeline with a gift for Conor Cody. And so your half-time team talk is next goal. You score the next goal, it's game on. But similarly, if United score the first goal in the second half, then it's game over, and that proved to be the point, and yet again it was down to a mistake. And that's, I just was listening to what Matt was saying, and it's what happens in both boxes that invariably wins or loses you a game of football. And at the minute, for Leicester, there's just too much going on inside their own box and not enough going on in the opposition's box. But the positives that you take from the beginning of that second half was, they had umpteen opportunities, umpteen forays into Man United's final third. It was just that final ball, that little bit of nice. That maybe, if one or two other players had played tonight that didn't play, that would have normally have played, might have made a bit of a difference. And that was the difference for Man United, because they went strong up top from the beginning of the game.
Got him some really good areas in that first 15-minute period in that second half. You think, and we sort of pointed out before the game with Martinez playing left back, but we thought Casey McAteer would have been up against it. I mean, the times James Justin got in the first 15 minutes, but just his final ball sort of let him down on more than one occasion. Jordan Ayew, he got himself in some good positions in the box, but couldn't quite get his shot off. Soumare, I think that's, and I haven't seen all his appearances for Leicester, I think that's the best that he's played. He's a big, commanding, strong, physical presence in midfield. He can pass the ball. He's got a little bit of quality. He's got a lot of quality. He was so unlucky with the shot that hit the bar. It's a fantastic save from the goalkeeper. He just gets it his fingertips. El Khanous, I thought he was outstanding. He's scored a magnificent goal. He was bright. He was lively. He was everywhere. To be fair, but yeah, it's as if at the minute Leicester are getting punished for every little mistake that they're making. The ball is ending up in the back of their net, and those little mistakes that they have to be ironed out. That they have to stop, because as Tag said, the fifth goal, there's not enough on the back pass from Okoli. Fernandes does ever so well. He's so cool and calm when he's taking the ball round Danny Ward. But as I say, even though you look at the scoreline, it doesn't look great. I think there's more positives from tonight's second half performance than there was against Nottingham Forest.
That's a good point, particularly, Jerry, Bilal El Khanous, and in that 15-20 minutes at the start of the second half, he looked extremely bright, didn't he? And that doesn't even include his goal, which obviously came in the first half as well. Yeah,
without a doubt, you've seen the real Bilal El Khanous there in that second half, where his movement off the ball, he knows exactly what he's trying to do. Little give and goes. We know he's got the quality. We've seen that in little cameo appearances, Southampton and elsewhere. But tonight, he sort of thought, well, he's getting it, and he's getting it. It's like he's got it. He knows he's picking it up. He's up the speed. We're playing in England. He looked hungry. He looked lively. He didn't look half paced. Where before you thinking he's just not going through the motions, but he's not too sure whether or not he should be going full tilt at things. But tonight in that second half, I mean, he really showed he's got quality, the kid.
Yeah, I think all the points that you and Jerry's backed it up there, the positive side of things, I think they're all valid. And Steve Cooper, as is usually the case, he's always looking for the positive aspects of the game, and not blindly as well. He's quite fair-minded, and he'll assess that and think, listen, okay, the scoreline is what it is, but there's pros and cons to be taken out of the game. But it will be a little bit of a concern, I think, as well, without being too negative. At the end of the day, Leicester have lost this game as well and conceded a lot of goals. The goals have been not cheaply conceded. Listen, there was quality for Man United as well, but there's got to be improvement as well, yeah. I think, on the defensive aspect there, because with just rattling through a couple of situations, but the first goal out wide, good ball going out, so he cuts inside a little bit easy. No real fault from I think it was up against James Justin when they're in the dummy. But again, just been watching while we're talking there, a replay of the strike from Casemiro. Great strike, quality player, technically wise. But Samari and Skip haven't got anywhere near close enough. Tags touched on it at half time. He just stood still, rooted Samari, and let him shoot. Like, apply some pressure, put some panic in his mind, but it didn't. And then you see the quality come through, and it's a level of opposition you're up against, unfortunately, in this competition as well as the Premier League. Second goal, I mentioned it. Yeah, suspicion of offside. One Man United player, I think it was 5 or 6 Leicester players. Darlow found Garnacho. That's got to be tightened up. It's got to be adjusted quicker. Third goal, free kick. Okay, you can say unlucky, but you've got to be more resolute than that. Maybe, I don't know. Misfortune, maybe we'll put that down to. But again, quality of the free kick itself, isn't it? And fourth goal.
See, the biggest goal I'm disappointed with is or is it?
Sorry.
The set piece.
The set piece.
They've taken a short corner kick.
Yeah.
I think Casemiro wins the header initially, comes off the post, comes off the other post.
He wins the header.
He's the first one to react.
He's on the move, reacting. 3 or 4 Leicester.
I think that's the worst goal I can think of the 5, where it was avoidable. Really avoidable.
Yeah, there were situations, the 5th goal, obviously, the mistake. Just in an
element error
of doubt, because they both, I don't know, haven't sorted it out verbally or physically in their body positioning, body language, as to who's going to take control. It should have been McCauley from the off. James Justin just brush him out of the way, or command him out of the way, make sure on that back pass. And there was another one with, I said Xerxes had a shot. I was complaining to you. You thought I was being too harsh. The ball was pulled back, edge of the box. Fernandes goes over it, second half. Xerxes touches it with his studs, looks up, clips a shot. I think it was a good save by
Danny Ward.
Leicester midfielders are dropping onto their centre halves. They're picking up their own centre halves where there's no centre forward, and the midfielders of Man United are shooting. They've got to pick up the players, not the space as well. So there's different things to look at. But in general play, I'm picking up on defensive situations. But general play, like I say, that wasn't a horror show, was it? No. There were some positive aspects of it, and you picked out, rightly so, a number of individuals as well. So bits for Steve Cook to work on.
Well, yeah, particularly, again, Jerry, and I don't want to keep harping back to it, but the start of that second half, they had a number of opportunities where they were in on the right-hand side, or James Justin had a lot of space, didn't he, on the right a few times in the space of about 5 minutes. And had they taken one of the half opportunities and chances that they maybe had, who knows what we might have been talking about. But I guess they can take confidence from the fact that on the face of it, 5-2 seems bad, but actually it probably wasn't a 5-2 scoreline. It could easily have been very different.
Yeah, it could have been. And I've got to give a mention to Bouba Samari, as Ewan's mentioned. I think, he's, when you're not in the first team on a regular basis, when you're not on that Saturday squad, or you're not on the starting 11 on a Saturday, it's meant to hurt. And Samari showed tonight that, he's asking he showed the manager tonight with that performance of his as well, that, you need to start looking at me again, boss, you know what I mean? But going back to your question, I think when you're on top like that, and you're coming to a game like Manchester United, then it's really important to take advantage when you have the opportunities. And as we've already spoken about, Leicester had a lot of opportunities to get back in the game. Just could not, as we said, put the icing on the cake. Well, the final ball, or for whatever reason, or the cross was just too long and too high, and the final ball, or was a misplaced touch in a really good position when Manchester United are on the back foot. And then when you don't maximise those opportunities at Old Trafford against, a struggling Man U team, but still full of quality, then at some stage you're going to pay, and that's what happened tonight. But they paid through a mistake, and that's why it's so important that whatever's happening when you're defending, especially whatever's happening in front of you, has no bearing on your job. Your job is to keep it as tight as possible and free up the boys at the top end of the pitch to keep being able to apply the pressure. And all you can do is hope and pray that one of the forward players can get you back in the game. And I suppose, again, that's the frustrating side of tonight's performance. But as Matt's already mentioned, in the general player things, the general forward play, there was some very, very good stuff, especially in the second half.
So I thought we started the first half well.
I did, yeah.
I thought we were brave in the way we approached the game. You know, we spoke about how would Steve Cooper sort of approach the game. Would he set us up defensively and defend deep and invite pressure? He didn't. You know, we were on that front foot. You know, we were squeezing, we were pressing as a team, and they found it impossible to break through the way we were pressing in that first 15 minutes. And then obviously Casemiro puts one in the top corner. It's a hard one to take down. It really is when you look at the scoreline 5-2, and you know, I don't think you can be overcritical, even though it looks a bad loss. I don't think you can be overcritical of that type of performance from Leicester City tonight.
Do you agree, Matt?
Yeah, generally, I think. Listen, certain people are gonna, perhaps like someone might accuse me of it tonight, is highlighting the negatives a little bit, or focusing on that. But you've got to do that. You can't get away from that. But yeah, that needs to be balanced off with the points that you and Jerry have made there. You know, good positions, good individual performances, good situations. You know, ultimately, whether you capitalise on those situations or defend more with more resolve or not is going to determine how your season pans out over the long run. But they are, getting periods of possession, purposeful possession, and good situations. Got to be more clinical more often, be more of a threat more often, perhaps get more numbers in the box. But I mean, it's a bit of a catch-22. You don't want to go too wild, and then you get caught out, and then the game's over before you know it. So, again, it's balancing that throughout it's going to be like that throughout the course of the season. Steve Cooper, but it's just get on the right side of that balance. But I don't think it's a devastating night or anything like that. But some supporters will accentuate the scoreline and the squad's not good enough, and Man U are having the worst form of their lives, or the last 10 years or so, and we still can't produce a result against them or in this competition when. Whichever way that people look at it. But I think, a reasonable, impartial look at the situation will say this, at the end of the day, Man, you have that quality, whatever. There is massive room for improvement from Leicester, which is a good thing, because, I think they're capable of developing and improving. But at the same time, that wasn't the end of the world tonight. And, I don't know.
I think you still got to
focus on the league and all that business as well, as people say. Would have been nice to go on in the cup.
You take everything into account as well.
Yeah, exactly.
As we spoke about,
exactly.
The 9 changes before Saturday. To go there and perform like they did. Take the goals, put the goals to one side. But if you look at the general performance over 90 minutes, with a group of players who probably haven't played that much together.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. There's lots of bits of
positive.
Quite a few things, aren't there? Both negative and positive. I mean, Leicester could have got done 5-0 tonight, say, for instance. If they had, it wouldn't have been a true reflection. And 5-2 probably isn't either. But regardless of that, with those changes, with those reasons you mentioned, it's Man United, it's midweek, it's the League Cup, Carabao Cup, whatever. Come Saturday, it's sort of largely irrelevant, isn't it? A little bit. Let's regroup. Even if they've got the win, obviously it's lovely to take into a weekend, positivity and all that. But okay, it's done now. Regroup. Let's focus on what's really important and all pull together. Steve Cooper will assess his team selection and they go for broke at the weekend.
Yeah, that leads us nicely, Jerry, on to the weekend. Fair play to the Leicester fans that travelled up to Manchester tonight. A lot of them, again, will be travelling down to Portman Road in Ipswich, of course, on Saturday, and that is a big game, isn't it? And if Leicester can go there and get the victory, we'll have forgotten about this evening.
Well, without a doubt, I think there's no getting away from the fact that as much as we want to do well in the cup, the priority is obviously survival in the league at the minute, and they've given themselves in the last couple of games a good chance of that. And coming up on Saturday is another game where if they go about it in the right way, then they're giving themselves a chance to get that positive result. And what Steve Cooper has seen tonight from a few of his players, he's got a few more strings to his bow. He's seen a couple of players, especially in Sumari and in El Canoes, that this is what I wanted to see from these two, and he's got a really good look at them, and so they'll definitely be in his thoughts for the weekend.
We're just thinking, big game, massive, one step at a time. But I mean, before you forget about Old Trafford, you've got them again the next week. So they won't be too long be out of the mind, will they? But listen, one step at a time, isn't it? And it's what's done is done now. There's going to be no moping about, whichever. Steve Cooper might have seen a few things that confirm his suspicions, maybe in a couple of areas. In other areas, he's got food for thought, hasn't he? But most importantly, it's about getting the job done at the weekend.
Absolutely, yeah. Final say, Ewan, can go to yourself. As a former Norwich player, you'll especially be wanting to see Leicester do well at Ipswich, of course. But it's a massive game, isn't it? It
is. And before the Bournemouth game, had you said if we can go down there and beat Ipswich, I mean, we were unlucky last year. They scored, 2 really late goals to take points off Leicester last season. If we can go down to Ipswich, we're still looking for their first win and come back with the 3 points. Had you said before the Bournemouth game, you'll win 3 of your next 4, I think every Leicester City fan would have taken that.
I think so. They've just got to go there and do that, of
Good
course,
way to finish.
at the weekend. Thank you to Ewan. Thanks to Jerry for heading up to Manchester on co-commentary. Thanks, of course, to Matt as well. Of course, we will be back again for that game on Saturday. It is a 3 o'clock kickoff down in Suffolk. So we will be live from 2 p.m. Just have to double check there, Ewan.
Yeah, it's not Norfolk, Dan.
And you gave me a nice little nod, so thank you. Live from 2 p.m. So we will be on for that massive game. And then, of course, it's another trip to Old Trafford, this time in the Premier League a week on Sunday, just before the international break. We will be live from 1 o'clock on that Sunday. As I said, thank you very much to Ewan, Matt and Jerry for their company this evening. Well done to those Leicester fans that travelled all the way up to Manchester this evening. Sorry the result couldn't come through for you. Leicester are out of the Carabao Cup, but all attentions now, of course, turn to that big game on Saturday. Good night.